I had a roommate that had dogs. She was not very nice to them. The house was plenty big that she could kind of avoid them all the time, but whenever they did encounter each other briefly, she was not very nice.
I have a 105-pound pit mix here who loves
Oh
nothing
wow.
more than to go around and sniff all the cat asses. So
Oh,
I totally understand. Sometimes that creates a few traumatized cats.
gotcha.
Anyway, I do have this thing up and running. So yeah, I'd just like to thank you for coming on. I'm gonna, give it a couple seconds and then and bring it up from the top. Okay.
You got it. Ready whenever you are.
All right. So I am here with Ron Placone, and he's world famous comedian. Been on the Jimmy Dore show. He does a great show that I love, which is Get Your News On with Ron on YouTube. And I'd like to thank you for taking the time. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks for having me. I don't know about the world famous part, but but I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, you do have quite the devoted following. I will say that, and definitely, I'm really happy that you decided to join up, and I know you understand what it's like as an upstart, um, and I'm really excited because you are coming to town. That's correct.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to be in Baltimore on June 13th, which is this coming Thursday. And the night before, we'll be in Washington, D.C. So, yeah, this is the East Coast leg of the Progressive Comedy Tour officially starts on June 12th. And the day before that, on June 11th, I'm actually going to be in Washington, D.C. for an epic live stream, which is a project I'm collaborating with the group Fight for the Future on, where we are going to do an epic live stream to save net neutrality. And I'm actually going to be going to Mitch McConnell's office, or at least a group of folks are going to be going to Mitch McConnell's office, and I will be at the Senate building streaming as much as I can, and we're going to present him with a petition to save net neutrality.
That is awesome. I certainly, obviously, I want him to put that up to a vote. I think
Right.
he's going to bury his head in his shell, just like you would expect from any turtle. Um, and I mean, hate to be a skeptic. I don't think he's going to, I think his staffers are going to be nice, but he's not going to pay it any mind. This is why we need somebody strong in Kentucky to go run. Um, but no, I think it's great. I'm glad you're going to be in DC for a couple days. And
Yeah, I mean, chances are the Senate's not going to act on this, and we know that. Like it's not like we're expecting a miracle here, but to kind of like shine some light on it, we're basically, exposing them as going on the record for, being too cowardly to put it up to a vote because they know that if they do, all of the members of the Senate that go against net neutrality, that's going to be on the record. So they want to prevent that from happening. So, we're trying to shine as much light on it as we can.
And one thing that it doesn't matter where you fall on the map. You'd like a free and open internet to be able to browse whatever it
That's
is you
right.
want to browse.
That's right. Over 80% of citizens favor net neutrality, and that's all across the political aisle. That's on the left, that's on the right, that's in between. Pretty much all citizens favor net neutrality. And the ones that don't, I think it's because they've been grossly misinformed about the topic or they're just not aware of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Um, so anyway, I did want to mention the tour dates. You're going to be in DC. You're going to be at the Reliable Tavern, right, on
Yeah,
Wednesday
Reliable
night.
Tavern, June 12th, 8 p.m. And then Baltimore the following night on June 13th will be at the Lou Costello Room. And that show also starts at 8. And
And that
then we'll
is
be
in
in.
the beautiful Hamden. That is right on the avenue there.
Nice. I'll take your. I don't know the city that well, so I'll take your word for that.
It is this is a actually quite historic venue. It
Oh, cool.
predates all the gentrification and everything apparently. So
It
I
looks
haven't
really
been,
cool.
but
I mean, yeah. Well, The comedy circuit is kind of like a small incestuous thing. So, whenever we're doing a given market, we usually talk to other comics in the area or, other comics that are have just toured the area, and we ask them for venue recommendations. And so, Reliable Tavern was recommended to me in DC. Lou Costello Room was recommended to me in Baltimore. So, that's kind of just how we build these things. So yeah, I'm excited. Usually we get to play some really, really cool venues. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked.
I can imagine. Just what kind of things? Because I mean, I'm a fan of yours, but I know there's a lot of people who might be listening to this who aren't really familiar with you. What can they expect, and what can somebody like me expect?
Well, I think you can expect a good time. I mean, it's a stand-up show, and it's myself and Graham Elwood, and we both do full sets. We both do about 45 minutes apiece. And we talk about a lot of political stuff, but it's not all politics. We also just talk about stuff going on in our lives, just like all stand-ups do.
Of
And
course,
it's
yeah.
a pretty fun time. And afterwards we have different groups that table at our events. The DSA usually pops in and they table. Sometimes our Revolution tables, Movement for a People's Party. So we have different progressive groups there. Sometimes candidates come and they table. If you know anyone who wants to table, they're invited. Just let me know. So it's a really cool gathering where a lot of like-minded people get to meet each other. And we've totally seen, business cards being exchanged, information being exchanged.
Oh, I have
People
mine
who are
already
like,
ready.
Yeah, I want to join your group. I want to join your campaign. So it's really cool. It's a lot of fun.
Fantastic. And I do a fair bit of work with our Revolution Baltimore, and I've done some work with Progressive Maryland, and so I definitely understand. We've got a whole bunch of groups here, and sometimes it's hard to get everybody in one place. And so coming out to a comedy show, you get people from all different groups, and I can imagine it's just a big melting pot there.
That's really one of the things we're trying to do with this tour. I mean, we found it be, the one thing is it's supposed to be a fun night out. You're supposed to laugh and have a good time, of course. But we also thought it'd be cool, because it's called the Progressive Comedy Tour, to really kind of, give everybody a chance to get together in a room and laugh together. Because, it's one of those things, I really think we need to have not necessarily a singular voice, but we really kind of have to have kind of a unified front to be an effective movement for, better progressive change in this country. So I feel like, hey, if we can get a bunch of people in a room together laughing about stuff, realizing we, have a lot of the same principles and values and a lot of the same thoughts and ideas, maybe we can, also collaborate on some bigger things, So
I definitely, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I feel like a lot of times we're constantly given the negative. That's why I'm actually a big fan of Get Your News On with Ron. I do feel like there's enough positivity and humor in there to kind of balance out where we're at as a society.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, that is the goal.
And I
The
do
goal of
try
Get Your News
and
On with Ron.
I try and drop by regularly when I get the chance. And I try to do the same. I know you do a lot of stuff with the Jimmy Dore show. You've been on there. You've been a mainstay there. And you mentioned you mentioned trying to provide some levity to an otherwise chaotic life, and especially in the days of the Trump regime, when it seems like every day there's a new atrocity. You got any good off-screen Jimmy Dore show stories, anything like that kind of would inject a little bit of that in there?
I can't think of like a super specific thing, but we're always joking around on screen and off. Usually, when we shoot a segment or we do a live stream, and we usually joke around to some extent, even when it's a heavy topic, because it is a comedy show. And then afterwards, the conversation usually just continues. And we joke around a lot about a lot of stuff, and we have a lot of fun when we record the phone calls, and we're usually laughing about them after they happen. So yeah, it's a pretty good time, and it's a fun way to kind of laugh about the atrocities, as you put it. So
And,
I can't think of like one particular, for instance, but it's because it's kind of like just every time I'm in that studio, we have a really fun time, and we get to make some really,
and it looks like it.
some really cool content. And,
That comes
and then
across.
It just continues off. I'm sorry, excuse me.
I said that really it comes across. You can tell that
cool.
everybody there is having fun and enjoying talking about this, and you need that, especially. I mean, when we were going through, the George W. Bush administration, a lot of people were tuning into the Daily Show. You need that break, and I really feel like that crew. I know you're in California, and the crew that Jimmy assembled with you and with Steph and Graham really does a good job of speaking to our anger on the left here a little bit. And I constantly rail against, the idea that we're going to get a Hillary 2.0. And so coming out to a show where we can talk about, all the things going on and have a good laugh about it sounds great to me, because I'm pretty sure, just like in Maryland, California might be a blue liberal state, but not necessarily as progressive as we would like it.
I have come to the point where I just feel like this entire country is just not as progressive as we would like it. I lived in Washington State for a while, and I was told that it was like some big progressive utopia. And, in some ways it is compared to a lot of other parts of the country. That's certainly true. But, I mean, hey, Seattle, which is where I lived, that's Bezos country now.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos pretty much gutted that city.
And Oregon is Nike.
And Portland is going through some similar things. Now, I love all those places. That's not in any way a slight to any of those places. Seattle's one of my favorite cities. I loved living there. Portland's one of my favorite cities, too. But, I've lived in these places. I live in Southern California now. They say San Francisco, another city I love, is some progressive utopia. But, San Francisco has a ton of laws that really hurt poor people. And they're pretty much kicking the creative class out of the city. They pretty much already have.
And they did the same thing on the East Coast, too. They did it in New York and Philadelphia and in Baltimore and D.C. And anytime you get those areas, they don't last long, especially with gentrification. It's one of our long-running jokes, but there's some truth to it. If you have a one-party government, you end up getting all the corporate money going to one wing of the party instead of a different party entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you just have this, when you just commonly accept that we pretty much have one party and it's the money party, and they just kind of have two wings, then, one wing in particular can just become especially repulsive, to the point where you're just like, well, at least this other wing's not as repulsive as them, and that's pretty much where we're at. The Republican Party is just, morally despicable beyond comprehension. And I've said this before on the stream, I don't know if there's anything as terrible as the Republican Party in any other, democratic experiment. You know what I mean? Like there are some things as bad as the Republican Party in, authoritarian regimes. But as far as,
and I would throw fringe parties in there, parties that might not get more than 5 to 10% in a proportional representative society.
That's a good point. So I would also specify there that has the same power that they do.
Yeah.
That has the same power that, I know, you can look in, there's some fringe parties out there that are just straight up, just straight up racist, and they don't even try to conceal it and stuff like that. But as far as they have the power that the Republican Party does, and they are as equally repulsive. I don't know if there's an equivalent in any other democratic experiment. I mean, you look at something like the UK, the Tories, which is like, their right-wing party that actually has power, they're to the left of the Democrats on some
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. And again, you would have to really, comb through a lot of stuff to make that determination. But off the top of my head, like, I can't think of anything as repulsive as the Republican Party in a democratic or pseudo-democratic experiment that has that same, platform.
And it boils down to the fact that we let corporate money take a hold of our government so much that, we let the Koch brothers pretty much buy an entire political party. When you let big money do that, you're not going to have proper representation. And I think even Republicans, as you said before, would agree with that they don't have proper representation of their views in Congress.
Yeah, I mean the people, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot of them that they just don't even recognize their own party anymore. It's just gotten so ridiculous from from the '60s until now. But yeah, absolutely.
And there's definitely a reason, the majority of people still don't vote, and I still say it's easier to get that 1% to 2% off their ass and go vote when they've got something to vote for instead of something to vote against, which I know you concur with, and I'm sure a lot of the people who are familiar with you would agree with.
I've echoed that sentiment a couple of times. You can't be, I mean, that's why it's like you mentioned Hillary 2.0. We're not going to have a Hillary 2.0 no matter what, because if we do end up having a Hillary 2.0 as the nominee, they're going to lose anyway.
That's what I'm afraid of right now, actually.
Exactly. I mean, they would lose anyway. So
I think, frankly,
I
think we've got 20 people and 17 of them. I'm ballparking, but all but 3 of them I think could, would stand a good chance to lose. You're talking about an incumbent. And you're also talking about a party that actually in the last campaign cycle sent out mailers that said vote Democrat because have you seen the other guys? This is a thing that came out in an email, like, to the people. This wasn't a leaked one. This is our best idea. Eat it up.
That was the best they could come up with. In a time where people were desperate, that was the best they could come up with. And yeah, I mean, if you give people a choice between snake oil or no oil whatsoever, enough of them are going to take a chance on snake oil, and that's what happened in 2016.
Yep.
And that's probably going to happen again in 2020 because despite being, despite completely, letting down every promise he made, Donald Trump is more popular than he was when he started.
And I feel like we've seen this before. We saw this in 2004.
Oh, yeah.
And we're seeing it again now. And we're seeing it's very true. The Democrats would rather lose with a blue team puppet. And I think it's appalling. So believe me, I'm looking forward to a night of comedy where we can laugh about this and, maybe drink some of those sorrows away. So anything else for the people at home? Where can they find you? Even if they don't get a chance to get out. I mean, obviously, I want everybody to get out to Reliable Tavern in D.C. off of Georgia Avenue and the Lou Costello Room here in Baltimore. But if they can't, where can they find you?
They can find me online at ronplacone.com. They can find me over on youtube.com/ronplacone, where I do Get Your News On with Ron Monday through Thursday. I'm going to have a little break from that coming up because I'm going to be on tour. But whenever I'm not touring, I'm doing Get Your News On with Ron. And then they can find me at epiclivestream.com tomorrow, where I'm going to be participating in the all-day stream for net neutrality. And, of course, if you are so able, catch me on the road. June 12th, Washington, D.C. June 13th, Baltimore. June 14th and 15th, 2 nights in Philadelphia, if you got any PA listeners. June 16th, New Haven, Connecticut. June 17th, New York City. June 19th, Boston, Massachusetts. And tickets for all those shows are available at my website, ronplacone.com. And, yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Awesome. thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait, and I will definitely see you at the show on Thursday. Thank you so much.
See you then.
Thank you, Ron.